This is Justin Landon, your CEO, here with your president, Greg Buchanan, joined by some of our friends from around the industry. We have Chris Vanzant from Stockton Mortgage, Christion House from Pillar to Post, Shannon Cornett from Gateway Realty, and Emily Grant from Bluegrass Land Title. We've gotten everybody together today to have a little bit of a conversation about the way that we have adjusted our business practices with the result of the pandemic, talk a little bit about what that means for the real estate community at large, and then maybe just talk a little bit about how everybody's business is doing during this time. So I'm going to throw this to Greg Buchanan to talk a little bit about his perspective as president and a little bit about what realtors within the community should be up to these days.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. This certainly is not the presidential year I'd had in mind for 2020, but we're still going to try to get some stuff accomplished on our goals and whatnot. But right now, our main focus is really how we navigate the market and navigate through the COVID-19 pandemic. So I've sent out a list of items of best practices from our company that we're trying to implement, and I'll just go over a few of those real quick. Obviously, work from home as much as possible and only going to the office if it's absolutely necessary. We're trying to eliminate any type of in-person transaction as much as we can. That means like not going to open house or canceling all open houses. I mean, there's no reason to be doing an open house right now. Even if you think you can do one in a controlled environment, it's really just a public relations nightmare. We don't suggest that you even try to have one right now. Also, obviously eliminate, unsolicitation type of door hangers or mailers, things of that nature. Again, it's probably not the best time to be utilizing that type of prospecting. If you haven't utilized things like earnest money deposit, the company Earnest that some brokers have gotten with, you can actually do earnest money deposits online straight into the escrow accounts. That's another thing that we're using. Obviously Zoom, the program we're on right now, we're using these to have listing presentations or buyer consultations to eliminate an in-person type of presentation. Use the Zoom account to get all of your documents shared on the screen, and obviously .loop for digital signings. Matterports when possible. Use 3D imaging and virtual tours to eliminate unnecessary showings. This will allow a buyer to walk through a house and see all the details without physically touring the home. Showings obviously when necessary. We obviously can still show homes in person, but we need to take that with extreme precautions, and encouraging sellers to flip on every single light switch to open every door, bedroom, closet, pantry, so the buyer can simply walk through the home without touching anything. We're also encouraging realtors to drive separately and inform the buyers to bring decision makers only to the showings. This is not a time for grandparents or parents or friends or whatnot to the showing. We're also encouraging our agents not to attend closings. Wait in the parking lot and be available via phone, and also encouraging not to attend inspection report with home inspectors. Really no need for an agent to be there right now during this time. So that's some of the things that we're going over from a realtor's best practice use. But what I really want to do is also go over to some of our other leaders in the industry to see what has happened with them and how they're handling the pandemic, how it's affecting their business and what precautions they're taking, and basically give us realtors any heads up that we might need to know about in terms of delayed closings or delayed, in terms of financing or appraisals. So right now I'll give it over to Kris and let him talk about it, what he's doing.
Thanks, Greg. This environment has presented some unique challenges to us as an industry. The positive thing about the finance side is I think we've adapted years ago to e-disclosures and being able to scan in documents through cell phones and other electronic devices so that the borrower doesn't have to do face-to-face. So we're in the mode right now of trying to sign about 90% of our clients to their initial disclosures through e-signatures, and that's working well. We have asked most of the support staff to work from home. David Stockton had ordered about 24 laptops about a month ago, so we have a large population of our staff at home, out of the office. Most of the offices are manned by 1 or 2 people. And then when we do have a closing, we're trying to keep the population that attends the closing at a minimum. And so borrowers, buyers, sellers, closing agent, even our own loan officers are being requested to sit outside the closing if possible, just to try to prevent as much contamination of the closing room as we can. It's working well so far. We, a couple months ago, we implemented a hybrid closing, which allows for about 90% of the documents to be signed by the borrower electronically. The only documents that have to be signed in person are the mortgage and the note. And we've seen that take off extremely well too so far. So that could get the closing down to actually about a 5 to 10 minute experience, which limits the exposure of the borrowers or the buyers and the sellers. Up next that we see happening pretty soon is going to be a e-note on conventional loans, which means the borrower can sign everything remotely. And then I think Emily will speak here in a second on the remote notary, but that's taken off very quickly in Kentucky to the point that I think here in the next couple of weeks, if your lender allows it, your buyers and sellers will be able to sign using a remote notary. I think that will take a lot of the risk from the pandemic off of our clients. And that's who we're really worried about. We have to think about the client first and what we expose them to. And I think as a whole, I think that our industry is adapting well. And as Emily said earlier, I think that we're forcing ourselves to make some long-term changes that will be a positive overall for the industry for years to come. I think we will see some positive come out of this negative situation that we're in. But from what we've seen so far, everybody's reacting well to it and cooperating and understanding the new world that we live in. And we appreciate everybody's help and patience as we go through this. And the fortunate thing is the market is steady. You would think that with us going through what we're going through, that we would see the numbers drop in half. And we're just not seeing that. We're seeing steady business. We're seeing people are still looking for homes. People are still looking to sell. And I think that's a positive, and it's going to pull us all together to get this thing done. So.
Hey, Kris, are you seeing any worries about underwriting? Any delays in underwriting, or is that largely has there been really no impact there?
We're not. The only underwriting scenario that we have with the pandemic is people being laid off from their jobs. That's the only thing that's changing the mortgage world. Of course, if somebody's laid off from their job, that could be seen as an issue with closing a loan. But underwriting, all of our underwriters are remote for the most part. I think we have one underwriter who's actually in an office. So they've been underwriting from home for years. So this was kind of a seamless transition whenever we went to the pandemic environment where they were already used to working from home, and our processors are working from home too. So I don't see any real delays in the process because of the changed environment on underwriting. In fact, I know Stockton and probably several of our competitors have had some of the best springs we've ever had. Volume wise, namely March was phenomenal. So I think everybody's handling it well.
Great. Emily, how's the title world?
The title world is good, but very different than it was a month ago, I will say. Closings are certainly not what they were at the end of February. It's just an entirely different experience. But we, like everyone else, are trying to adapt to this changing environment. We are very fortunate, like all of you, that we have been deemed to be part of the governor's essential workforce. So we're able to continue operating. But like everyone else, we've had to make some adjustments in order to be able to comply with the mandates on social distancing and what I will call enhanced hygiene. So sanitizing everything, right? So on our end, we are, like, I think just about everybody, we're limiting the amount of people that come through our office. The vast majority of our staff is working from home, which presents a whole new adventure of its own, but we're navigating that. We are still doing in-office closings. We have some other options that I'll talk to you all about as well. But in-office closings are still a thing. We are just like Kris and Greg already touched on, we're limiting the attendees. So we are asking that only those who sign documents attend the closings. We are strictly adhering to a 5-person limit in any closing room. That's just so that we can maintain a 6-foot distance. We are, if you, as far as advice for agents, if you will let your buyers and sellers know that when they come to a closing at our office, assuming they're doing the in-closing option, our front doors are locked. So they will receive a call from us. They'll be asked to remain in their vehicle. They'll receive a call from us, and we'll go out to the car to get them and bring them into a sanitized closing room. I think everybody in town who conducts closings is making sure to wipe down all surfaces. We're giving them brand new ink pens, which they can keep. And we're asking everyone to sanitize their hands before touching documents. So those are just a few of the things that we're doing just to try to ensure the safety of everybody who comes in the office. And I will say, by and large, agents, lenders, everybody's been really understanding of that and very cooperative. So I think it's been a team effort, and we're all in this together. So we are also, fortunately, this week we found out that the Secretary of State is going to authorize us to notarize documents via video conference. So that opens up a whole new option insofar as the way we conduct closings. So I expect to see in the coming weeks that we'll do fewer in-office closings and more video conference closings. So that will work essentially just like it's working right now on this call. We will send the documents to the buyer or seller. They'll print them out at their home. They will join the video conference with their attorney and with their real estate agent and their lender if they wish to. So we can kind of bring everybody back into the closing experience with this option. And then they'll have to, present their ID. They will have to state that they are within the state of Kentucky. Keep in mind, this video conferencing option is separate from the remote online notarization option. And this is an option that's only available if you're within the state of Kentucky. So this means that they're going to wet sign the documents, return wet signed documents to the closing attorney, and then we are going to wet notarize them. So it's a great option. It's something that we've been hoping for the last month or so, and the Secretary of State made it a reality this week. So that's one of the big things that I think is on the horizon. We're also doing curbside closings. I think you all have probably seen lots of people in town doing that. It's just what it sounds like. We'll just take the documents out to your buyer or seller. We'll have them sign the documents in their car. We'll notarize them. We'll explain them from a 6-foot away distance. And then we'll, fund and disperse as we normally would once everything is completed. As for remote online notarization, that is a thing that Kris just alluded to, and it's brand new. It just became law on January 1st. It is in high demand right now, and the only way you can achieve a remote online notarization in the state of Kentucky is by going through a third-party vendor at the moment. So, for instance, I can't conduct that closing. We have to hire that out to a third-party vendor. We use one called Notarize. And they are, because of the demand, they're really backed up. So we're hoping that loosens up in the coming weeks. But right now, if you want to do a remote online notarization closing through a third-party vendor, the wait is about 2 to 3 weeks. So we need notice if we're going to do that. It's a great option for people who are out of state or even out of the country. That's how we can achieve those closings. But we just need notice to do it. And then Kris talked about the hybrid e-closing where, the majority of the documents are signed from the buyer's home or the seller's home, and then they're brought in and a few documents are wet signed. So those are the things that we're doing to try to limit exposure, limit the people in the closing room, and keep everybody safe while still hopefully providing the highest quality of settlement experience.
Hey, Emily, do you think that we'll ever get back to a point where we're closing in the same room again, or is this going to be a lasting effect of the coronavirus?
I'll tell you what, Greg, I don't think we'll ever shake hands again. That's how we used to begin and end every closing with a handshake. I think those days are long gone. I think it depends on people's comfort level. Maybe we'll get through this and people will be comfortable being within 2 or 3 feet of each other again. I don't necessarily think we're going to maintain this 6-foot distance. And I'm hopeful that we can get everybody back into the closing room, because to me, it's a very valuable experience. I mean, we certainly don't like not allowing realtors and lenders into the closing. It diminishes the experience, I think, to an extent. It makes the clients more comfortable. They're there to ask questions, and they're the heart of the transaction, really. So I'd like to return to those days, but I unfortunately don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what the future holds.
Well, I know I'm looking forward to seeing the creative Zoom virtual backgrounds that agents develop to celebrate closings with their clients. So that's coming.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Emily. So Shannon, you're an appraiser. What's going on in the world of appraisal? How have things changed, if at all? And unlike Kris and Emily, you're going into people's houses.
People's houses, and we are very, very busy right now. Rates being low, there are a lot of refinances, and there are, as you know, still a lot of purchases. Probably most of what I'm doing are purchases. And I try to, understand that everyone's home. But the thing I would would be most helpful if they don't have to be home, if the agents can ask them to take a walk or take a drive, for just 45 minutes is really all I need. I do let them know I have gloves. I have an N95 mask for anyone that's immunocompromised. I'll wear this. And I have wipes. So what I do is I put this around my neck. And if they want me to wear it, I do. Mostly if you could ask people to open all the doors, flip all the light switches, so I don't have to touch anything, that would be the best. And the other thing is if everyone could stay in one room instead of being scattered throughout the house, because I have to get a picture of every interior room, that would be great.
I would imagine some of those things are things that would be useful all the time, right? Not necessarily just during the coronavirus pandemic, but especially important now.
Hey, I have a question for you, Shannon. There has been
hang on. Okay, go ahead.
There has been some talk about being able to do Fannie and Freddie have eased the appraisal guidelines to do drive-by appraisals, but then I was told that that will only be if there's maybe a large chunk of down payment, not just a 3.5% to 5%. Can you expand on that and what the guidelines are right now?
Well, right now, if it's FHA or VA, you still have to do an interior inspection. I've only had one lender change an order for an exterior. Everything right now, even with conventional, still they're requiring interior inspections except one lender for one loan. I've heard that they're changing the requirements to 25%. If you've got that down, then it can be exterior, but I haven't had that confirmed.
Okay.
So far, I'm still having to go and sometimes I'm going in 4 and 5 houses a day because we're not there as long as home inspectors. So, there's a lot of traveling, and I try to even wear those little booties and throw those away, but PPE equipment's really hard to find.
Right. Christion, what is happening in your world? And I'm surprised you're not doing this Zoom call on top of a roof. I was expecting
yes, sir. Yeah, we're still doing home inspections. So we've only seen a little bit of a slowdown as far as the home inspections go. The phones have slowed down a little bit, but as far as our team goes, the team's staying busy. I'm dialing back and just looking at more marketing and safe ways as far as how we should be conducting home inspections and things that we're doing. We are masking up if people are in the house. We are asking people to not be in the home while we're doing the home inspections as far as for occupied properties. We are wearing latex gloves while supplies last. As Shannon indicated, the PPE is hard to come by. We have sanitizer and disinfecting wipes as well that we have as supplies last. Some things that we're doing differently, we're really encouraging agents, sellers, and buyers to not be at the house at all while we're doing the home inspection, because we have to get into on the roof and the attic, top to bottom of the house. So to minimize the risk with everybody and any kind of exposure, we would just prefer nobody to be there at all. If buyers insist on being there at the end of the home inspection, we're requesting that it just keeps to a very minimum, 1 to 2 people who absolutely necessarily needs to be there. In addition to that, if everybody cooperates, then we can do video chat as well. We can discuss our findings over the phone. And what that does for us, if we are allowed to discuss the findings over the phone or through phone calls, it actually saves us time too to ensure that we're getting out of somebody else's home a little quicker. Usually when we are meeting on site to discuss the findings, that adds another 30 to 40 minutes to our home inspection process. But whereas if we can discuss the photos over Zoom or FaceTime and discuss over the phone, we can get out of the property much quicker, which helps to keep everybody a little happier. So we are encouraging people to not be at the house at the time of the home inspection. We are doing our due diligence as far as staying gloved up, masked up, sanitizing. Again, supplies are running low, but we are doing our due diligence. And then in addition to that, if anybody ever has feedback, we listen to that as well, as far as to ease the educational process of what information we're providing for the homeowners as well.
I would also like to request if realtors could provide a list of improvements that they've done to the house, that kind of cuts down on what they have to tell me. You know, people like to follow you around and tell you how great their house is, and it's hard to do from 6 feet apart. So if they could, email that to us or even leave it on the counter, that would be helpful.
Right, and given plenty of notice as far as for anything that's malfunctioning or don't operate, while we're there also helps to ease preventing damages to anybody's property, and also eases the process to make it a little bit more streamlined and quicker for us.
And this is all great stuff, and this is the stuff we were looking for, just in regards to making sure that if we're all utilizing best practices, then we all stay essential. And I think there's a lot of people out there taking photos. I've heard people taking photos because there was a home inspector talking to 6 or 8 people in the front yard. And if we can avoid situations like that, then that keeps people from labeling us not doing our due diligence and what we should be doing in the community, which is keeping everybody safe. So with that, does anybody else have anything to add or anything else that we as real estate agents can help you all with in your all's daily operations?
I think it would be helpful if we could put together a document to put out there for everyone of, this is what we would ask that you to do for your appraiser. This is what we'd ask you to do for your closing, for your loan officer and your home inspector.
Yeah, that's something that we have been talking about, and hopefully we'll get something put out. Just a best practice type guideline for everybody. So does anybody else have anything? Justin, do you have anything?
Well, I appreciate everybody taking the time to join us this morning. The only thing I would add is that it sounds like to me, especially for Shannon and Christion, that one of the most important things we can be emphasizing right now is communication. And that's kind of always been true, but in times of crisis it's even more true, which is the degree that realtors can communicate ahead of time with the professionals that are working within the same transaction, and vice versa. I think if there's one message realtors would probably appreciate being delivered to all 4 of you is, in a situation where we know deadlines and timelines are being pushed and shifted at a moment's notice, making sure that we've all got strong lines of communication between the realtor who's front and center with the client, and title and lending and inspections and appraisals, that we're all communicating even more so than we have before. I think in this current environment, that's more important than it's ever been.
I agree.
Exactly.
Well, guys, thank you all so much for taking out some precious time of you. I know everybody's busy right now still, but I really want to thank you all, and hopefully if we can all communicate together like Justin mentioned, then we'll all be in a better spot, and everybody just please stay safe out there. Thank you all.